Hi, so this week I'm trying to fix my faulty oil-filled radiator. So the radiator itself does actually work, but the problem is the power switch or something linked to the power switch. So when I wiggle the cable, as you can see, the light flickers on and off. I've got some kind of issue with the lead, the switch, or something else. So we'll unplug it and we'll have to open it up and see what's going on. So we'll get the iFixit kit out to start with, and we'll get a large Phillips head screw, and then we'll take the two screws out of the bottom. And then we'll see what gets released. So the bottom has got a bit of movement in it, but there's still something else that needs to come out. So have a little notice that there's two screws at the top. These are a little bit harder to get to due to the angle that they're in. I managed to get this one out, and then they have to swap to an old battered screwdriver to get the other one out, and then the front peels off. So it looks pretty simple and pretty basic inside, a couple of wires. So I'll just release this cable holder here so I can get a bit of a closer look, and then I'll feed the wire through. Just remove this sheath kind of thing, and straight away I can see that the wire is quite twisted and damaged, so it doesn't look great. So I feed the wire through a little bit more. I've turned the power switch on and I'm giving it a wiggle, and as you can see the light's not coming on at all. So it's a little bit strange why it's not coming on, but I'm just going to have to go with my gut instinct and assume that it's going to be the wire. So even when I'm wiggling even more, nothing's happening, so I'm not quite sure what's going on, but we'll see what we can do. So I'll get my wire snips, so I'm going to cut from the top just above where the damage is. So we've got a little bit of wire to play with. So we just snip through them three. And then we'll go just below the damaged bit. So about 3 or 4 inches of wire we're going to be cutting off. So it's not massive amounts that we're going to be losing. And now I'm going to get me sharp knife and very carefully just cut the top off so I can peel back the shielding. And then we can peel it away and then pull out the 3 wires inside to have a closer look to see if we can see any damage and what the issue could have been. So straight off you can see that the 3 of the wires are quite crushed, which could have some kind of an impact. And then we'll look at the other end, and this blue one here seems to be completely broken. So this is probably why it's been turning on and off. The wire's completely snapped and now it's completely stopped working. So we'll go back to the piece of wire that's being plugged in. That's obviously no longer plugged in. And then we'll strip it back to reveal the 3 wires that we're going to be able to cut to. And then we'll just pull off the protection at the end like that, so that we'll be able to solder to them in a minute. And then we'll do the same on the wires that are connected to the radiator as well. We're going to have to put a little bit of this heat shrink wrap on it as well. This is going to help us protect it once we've soldered the 2 wires together. And now what I'm going to do is place it as best as I can in best view as possible. And I'm going to add flux to all of the points, and then we're going to come in and give each one of them plenty of solder. So we'll start with the yellow one first. Solder on both ends, line it all up, and then heat it together. Once it's soldered solidly, we will push the heat shrink down so it gets completely covered like that. Pull it down, all nice and straight. Then we'll move on to the blue one. So again, flux and solder on both ends. And then just line it up as best as we can, try and get as straight as possible. Apply plenty of solder, leave it to go nice and solid. The heat shield gets pushed down on that one. We need to make sure it gets covered so there's no potential shorts going to happen. And then we go to our final one, this brown one. So again, plenty of solder on that bit, plenty of solder on this one. Line them all up next to each other, come in with some more solder, join it nice and solidly, and then push the heat shrink down, twisting it as you go. We need to get it to go all the way down to the bottom, so that there's no loose copper available that's going to short on one of the other ones. And then I just apply a little bit of heat by rubbing the side of the soldering iron around the heat shrink. This makes it shrink even more, makes it go nice and tight, and it's never going to move anymore. And then the final bit of protection, we're also going to wrap a little bit of electrical tape around this section as well. So again, nothing's going to move, nothing's going to become loose. We move this white heat shield back up, line it back into place, and then we'll come in with the clamp that holds it in. So it's 2 screws. I'm not going to do it as tight as it previously was because I think it made a bit of damage. And then what I do, I'm going to give it a quick turn on. So as you see, it's turned on, it's plugged in, it should be working. I now realise this bit. So I've only just realised as I'm halfway through that this is like a safety switch. So if the radiator was to get knocked over, this would move left or right and would turn off. If it's central, it's coming on, it's working perfect. So when I was trying to check it before and the light wasn't coming on, this will be because this safety switch was pushed to the side. As you can see, I'm moving it now. So we definitely got a working radiator, we just need to put it back together. So make sure all the wires are lined up properly, it gets hooked up over the top, click it all into place along the side. Just make sure no wires are trapped around the edges. And then we just move the wire at the bottom, make sure it goes into place. Put the 2 screws around the bottom wire with the little clamp, and then there's 2 screws back in the top. As you can see, we pop them in and then we pop it into our upright position, turn it on, and then we've got a working oil-filled radiator once again. We give the wire a wiggle and as you can see, it's working perfect. So we're back up and running. Nice easy fix. Now I can get nice and warm in the house. Thanks very much for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe.